Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Corporate Finance and HR Committee meeting of December the 5th, 2023. And if you're viewing online, this will be recorded. You can go back and review it at your leisure. With that, I'd like to start with our land acknowledgement. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we're extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Madam Clerk, can you conduct roll call, please?
Chair Peter Edemo.
Present.
Councillor Jason LeGree.
Present.
Councillor Andrew Dick.
Present.
Chair Edemo, we have quorum.
Thank you. And with that, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, thank you. And we'll move to item C1, which is the presentation of revised organizational structure. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know there's a slide deck on your agendas. I'm not sure if they'll be projected on the screens. They will be. We're bringing this forward because there's been a number of reports and reviews that have gone to Council this fall, and I've been asked what the org chart looks like and wanted to, going into the 2024 budget, present this in a kind of consolidated form for the committee and then Council to see. Again, subject to the 2024 budget, but based on what we know now. The first thing I'd like to start with is what a full-time equivalent is. So it's really not about how many people we have, it's the equivalent full-time count, because for instance you could have 3 people doing part-time work, which is the equivalent of a full-time, so it's less about the person count but more about the hours that are being filled. And for us, depending on the unionized environment or non-unionized environment, the number of hours may vary from place to place. So for instance, in fire, a full-time works 2184 hours versus union QP office folks and non-union are working 1820. So what we're hoping to do is use this so that it's clear from budget to budget what the actual full-time equivalent count, because I think it gives you a better indication of whether really there's growth in the numbers or not. For 2024, the number is 75.4 FTE, so just wanted to present that. The departmental structure that's been approved by Council includes Council for sure, and myself and Carolyn and our teams reporting directly to Council. And then the 5 departments led by the directors, so Treasury, Fire, Emergency and Protective Services, Facilities, Maintenance and Operations, Library and Community Services, and then Development, Environment and Engineering. And I'll go through each of those teams to outline what it looks like. So we don't have a deputy clerk, so officially I was appointed as deputy clerk when I was hired, so that title follows me. So when I go and close without the town clerk, I'm able to do so as the deputy. And then so our office, so Carolyn has the communications and engagement coordinator reporting to her, and the executive assistant. So I'm going to just use this one as an example. Compared to 2023, there's really no change in the full-time equivalent count because we've replaced a more expensive deputy clerk with a less remunerated executive assistant. So sometimes you'll see more or less full-time equivalents, but keep in mind that while I'm not showing it here, the salaries might not be the same in terms of the positions. But in this case, the office has not grown. It stays at 4 full-time equivalents. For facilities, maintenance and operations, with the bringing together of Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and the contracting out of water distribution and wastewater collection to Aqua, we have this new team. So this team has a total of 24.5 full-time equivalents. As you know, we have some seasonal staff in recreation. So basically reporting directly to the director is the operations assistant. And then we had 1 existing janitor for this building and the library. We have a retiree that works part-time, that's a janitor, and as we shown in the My FM Center staffing projection, we're short 1 janitor, so that brings us to 2.5 full-time equivalents to do janitorial work. And then each of the divisions, so we have a supervisor of Parks and Rec and a supervisor of Public Works, and then you see the staff complement to achieve what we need to achieve. So a lead hand, a skilled operator, maintenance laborer, and booking coordinator on the rec side, and then in Public Works, a lead hand, skilled operator, machine operator, and mechanic. And just a reminder, back to the full-time equivalent calculation, non-union is based on 1820 hours, and then full-time in the union is 2080, or 40 hours a week. Treasury. Council has seen made some decisions based on the financial services review and the Mattaway third-party review. So basically, this team is now 7. So the deputy treasurer has the revenue coordinator, so they deal with money in issues. The finance compensation specialist, who does payroll as an example, has the AP coordinator, so they're money out. And then the financial analyst, which was the most recent job, and the purchasing assistant that came out of the Mattaway third-party review. Those are the 2 new positions in this team. And then the customer service rep has been transferred to a different department due to our customer service strategy, but Treasury has 7 full-time equivalents. Library and Community Services. So the director also serves as library CEO. So although she works 18, 20 hours, not all of it goes to community services. There's a large chunk of that is due to her duties in the library. So in the light green, you have the library staff. Those are technically under the auspices and the control and the governance of the library board. So we have a deputy CAO who's unionized, and then the equivalent of 5 full-time equivalents that are library technicians. On the community services outreach side, we have a program and outreach specialist and a new programs assistant. So when we changed the events coordinator to a program assistant role, they're reflected here. The manager of EgDev and customer service, the former town clerk, is responsible for customer service and economic development, as the title says. So she has the economic development coordinator and then the customer service rep. So we have 1 here at Town Hall, and then the hours that were in the recent Mattaway report in terms of customer service. So the customer service agents at Mattaway are reflected in that number of 2.7 full-time equivalents. And then with the request from the Mill Museum to assume some of their operations, we're reflecting here their current staffing. So there's a 0.4 full-time equivalent from the museum. So this is reflected here. And again, that the direction from council previously was to discuss that more fully as part of the 2024 budget. I should stop and note that students and council are not included in these numbers in all departments. Development, Environment, and Engineering. So under Director Withers, there's kind of three areas. Development, so the chief building official with the planning building coordinator. Manager Amanda, manager of environmental services. So we have a machine operator and a scale attendant at the landfill. The other 0.1 is just the casual cover off for the scale attendant. So that brings it to 1.1. And then the new team, the manager of engineering and asset management, the engineering technologist, and the project management specialist. So again, those some of those changes came about as a result of the Mattaway third-party review and the winter summer maintenance review. So that's that team at 9.1 FTEs. Fire, Emergency, and Protective Services. So we have a director fire chief. We have a fire assistant that with the new bylaw coming in has now become a coordinator and is assisting with bylaw but also emergency management. So there's kind of 3 parts to this team. The crossing guards. So if you add up, that's a good example of full-time equivalents. There are a number of crossing guards, I believe about 10, but really when you add up their hours, it's 1.65, the equivalent of a full-time. 2 bylaw officers who will be starting as we assume services in-house by January 1st, so 2 there. And then fire, no changes. We have 2 full-time equivalent captains, 2 acting captains, 6 full-time firefighters. And then if you add up all the volunteer firefighters based on firefighting hours, it's the equivalent of 1 full-time equivalent, even though there are a number of them. So if there are any questions, Mr. Chair, I'd gladly take them.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Andrew Dick, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple questions. I don't know if you can answer this, CAO Tremblay. Through you, Mr. Chair. Let me scroll up here. Okay. The facilities maintenance and operations, are you allowed, are you allowed to give names so I have a name to the job? So like our director right now is acting director Collins. Mm-hmm. Who's the operations assistant right now? So the operations assistant interviews occurred, so we haven't quite yet hired somebody, but that one's in process. Okay, and then the supervisor of Parks and Recreation is Randy Smith. Mm-hmm. And then the supervisor of Public Works is who? Is Gerard Hanneman, so who is the assistant general foreman. Okay, and then lead hand under Parks and Rec? Is Kevin Crozier. Okay, and then the lead hand in Supervisors of Public Works?
Is Mark
Mark.
Breen.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'd just like to know who is in those positions.
Yep.
Okay, so.
And I should just note to that, once the budget's approved and we've updated the org chart, what we'll provide for council is just this with names and
Okay.
initials, so people know
Okay.
who's who and who's doing what, and that's helpful for everybody in the organization as well.
Okay. Next question, Mr. Chair, to CEO Tremblay. The museum curator, could you touch base a little bit more on that? Was that the curator that the board of the museum hired this year?
Yeah. So basically, the request from the museum board, and I understand Director Thompson met with them yesterday as well, just to understand for the 2024 budget. Their request was for us to assume operations. There was a report with that request saying council will fully consider that as part of the budget process. I could have left it out, but I wanted to show you the hours that have been budgeted last year for the position. So should the position be coming over, it would be the equivalent of 0.4. Council can determine what happens. The other one that we'll be assuming responsibility, should that go through, is the number of summer students they have. So right now, we're paying utilities, we do building maintenance, and we give them a $50,000 grant. If we assume operations, the biggest kind of new thing will be the staffing, which is mostly right now a part-time curator, whether that meets the need. And I know the board is seeing a lot of pressure, or maybe a couple people on the board are kind of maintaining the place, and volunteer burnout's a factor there. But so basically, I think it's 8 students they typically hire, and then this part-time curator. But again, subject to budget consideration and approval.
Okay, thank you. And if you don't mind, one more small question, Mr. Chair. Through you, under Fire Emergency Protective Services, Coordinator CEMC, is that presently a firefighter that's doing that, or?
Currently, the CEMC role, which is Community Emergency Management Coordinator, the fire chief has that responsibility. The issue in an emergency, the CEMC role, having been one in the past, is really to bring together the control group, make sure the plan is maintained, and calling everybody out in the event of an emergency, which is completely different from the director overseeing emergency management and making sure everything is kind of working properly. And in the event of an emergency, you don't want the fire chief doing the administrative work of the CEMC. So when we assume the bylaw services in-house, the quote that council saw on the new costs would be for the fire assistant who is shared with Public Works would become 40% of that person's time would be for bylaw, and then the rest of it will be fire. They help coordinate the crossing guards as it is. That's why you have an operations assistant separate. So that position is going to be basically providing the administrative support to fire, crossing guards, bylaw, and the emergency management piece. It just split the assistant into two roles instead of a shared role.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And if there's nothing further, there is no motion. This was an information item, so we'll move on to the next item, which is item D11. That Corporate Finance and HR Committee recommend Renfrew Town Council authorize the town clerk to provide confirmation to number 1, Renfrew Power Generation, Inc., RPG, that the town of Renfrew, as the sole shareholder of the corporation, has no intention of demanding payment of the promissory note in 2024, and number 2, Renfrew Hydro, Inc., that the town of Renfrew, as the sole shareholder of the corporation, has no intention of demanding payment of the promissory note in 2024. Mover, please. Councillor Legree, and the report, please. And the clerk.
Okay, so basically this is an annual requirement for our office to provide this promissory note that we are not going to call upon or demand the transfer amounts that are stated. So again, this is something that comes forward every year. Council may recognize it from early January of last year. So a little bit of background: the assets that were formerly held by the Renfrew Hydro Electric Commission were transferred to both Renfrew Power Generation and Renfrew Hydro Incorporated. back in 2000 in consideration of the transfer of assets and in accordance with the transfer bylaw. The RPG and RHI agreed to a couple different stipulations, one assuming the liabilities identified in the transfer bylaw, also to issue the town fully paid common shares having accumulated value of 50% of the total reconciled net transfer amounts, and to deliver the town demand promissory note having principal amounts equal to 50% of the net transfer amounts. So again, through the auditors of both RPG and RHI, they request this promissory note every year. Basically, it fulfills the requirement for the financial reporting standards that typically a promissory note is classified as a short-term liability. This note states that we will not call it on demand and that we're kind of still classified as a long-term liability. Any questions to that?
Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed, none. It's carried. Thank you, committee. And we'll move to item D1.2, strategic plan update. That corporate finance and HR committee receive a final update on the strategic plan process. Mover, please. Councillor Legree and Mr. CAO, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're nearing the end of the strategic plan process, which is really an important document, and it's focused on we're calling it Road to 2035, which is the span of the plan. Just in terms of next steps, so we put out a community survey. It did close. There will be some minor adjustments. I looked at the results today. They're not reflected in here, but there'll be some minor changes to, you'll recall for each strategy item, there was very high, or medium, and then now 1 to 5 years, 1 to 10 years, or 1 to 15 years. There's some slight changes based on some of the feedback we got from the community. Overall, though, from the preliminary results we had at the time, there's broad acceptance and support for the 10 strategy items that have been outlined to council and developed by staff, but based on council's feedback, the stakeholder interviews, the staff focus groups, but also the first community survey we did. I'll just point out the ones that are super high. Strategy 7, the town of Renfrew will be a municipal leader by fostering accountability, transparency, and financial sustainability. And number 9, the town of Renfrew will ensure the safety and protection of persons and property through effective community safety programs and fire, emergency planning by law enforcement and police services. But generally speaking, we're seeing for all these items more than 80% support. So these are broad and tend to meet what we've heard, which is all that pre-consultation that occurred. The one thing I'd like to correct is just due to timing and coming to this committee, the public meeting won't be advertised for the 12th. It will actually, my CAO performance appraisal, instead of happening on the 19th, will happen on the 12th, and we'll do the public meeting or the wrap-up on the strat plan on the 19th before adopting it later in the meeting. We're just editing it based on the feedback, so you will see that at council next week for kind of a last peekaboo before the 19th and adoption. And then again, that will form the basis of the corporate plan and hopefully the budget, and as part of the budget process, we'll outline those action items and the cost that we're trying to achieve through our work that meet with the strat plan. So it's been a long process, but I think one that's been valuable in understanding kind of where we need to go, and then it'll be a guiding document for everything that we do.
Any questions, comments? Councillor Legree, please.
Through you, Chair, to CAO Tremblay. Just a question, make sure I understand this. So our communications specialist here has put it out on the website and social media and all that. I see all that. It says over 1,300 people had seen it, seen the post on social media, but out of that, we only had 59 responses. Am I reading that correctly? Or?
Yes, and that was at the time of writing this report, so there were more. I know the 200 from before. I know for bylaw we had over 200, and the first survey had 200, and some on council felt that wasn't enough. But from a representative sample, it is. And I should just say it's a point in time to confirm where we're at, and all the other kind of consultation and stakeholder engagement we've done. Oftentimes people will say, hey, yeah, sounds good, and they'll say, oh, no, it's fine, because they've seen the reports and we've been transparent on the strategies. But that was just the number at the time. It was on the electronic boards. We bought ads on Facebook. So people are aware of it, just because they didn't complete the survey, but it's more than 59.
Yeah, okay. That was just because he did put it out through a lot of channels or whatever, and 59 was kind of low, so. Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew Dick?
Thank you, Chair, through you. Just to give you guys an idea when it comes to social media, so over 1,300 people had seen the post, doesn't mean they read it. That's the thing, right? That's how Facebook works, and that's why they can give you such big numbers, and it's kind of it's not a lie, but it is a lie. So it came on 13 people's pages. Yeah. So all they had to do was scroll on their laptop or scroll on their phone, and they didn't even have to read it, and they saw it, right? Something that I've noticed, moving on to the next question, Chair. Something I've noticed, every time we do something like this, we never have it on the radio. And we have a radio package with My FM here in Renfrew. So I'm just curious, are we utilizing that radio package to the fullest extent? You know, something like this, I've said this before, something like this, like Jamie Sobolski in the morning show or Emily Moore in the afternoon show, she would definitely do an interview with these things and bring someone on board, and they would talk on the morning show about it and how important it is and why we're doing it. I just think maybe we could utilize the partnership with My FM here in Renfrew a little better. Just throwing that out there, and you know, that's it. That's all I got. Thank you.
And just through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a draft corporate communication policy that Rudy prepared, and unfortunately been stuck with me, and he's looking at better use of all our tools, one being radio. The other thing is, like, I love strat plans, but like, let's be honest, not everything the municipality does is of great interest to folks. If you look at the 3 items that got less support, one is the administrative monetary penalty system. What people don't understand is what is that? It just replaces the Provincial Offences Act court, and it's just a simpler administrative thing, but it's a complicated thing to explain to folks. The other one is the provincial park, which some adjacent landowners are upset about, so they probably filled out the survey. And the last one is 32% do not agree with working to make Renfrew an inclusive community, and based on the time frame and other things that were happening. So they're important, like these surveys are important, it's important to get engagement, but we got to put them into context. And I think this one is not super sexy, but I think the other one is going to be the structured town hall will be a good way to engage. But I think it's because this is like step 5 in a long process. It's hard to get people engaged in some of that stuff versus some other things that we do, like roads and others, where people will be more engaged. But we are looking at our corporate communication tools and engagement tools, and we'll be bringing forward a policy to committee in short order.
Members of the committee, you heard the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? It's carried. Thank you. And that, whoops, screen moved. My apologies. That Corporate Finance and HR Committee recommend Renfrew Town Council accept this report as an update on the 2023 capital projects. That's item D.2.1. And mover, please. Councillor Andrew Dick. And with that, we'll have the report, please, from Deputy Treasurer.
Thank you. So we'll start by just acknowledging that the capital budget in 2023 had a 49 million and some change approximately for equipment, rolling stock, facilities, roads, and studies to be undertaken in this year. So there was a significant financial component. Just some background, we're going to touch on how many items are complete and how many are going to be complete in early 24 or deferred actually to be started and complete in 2024. So on Schedule A, which is our equipment and other, we have completed 4 out of our 6 projects, and we have deferred 3 until 2024. Do we want to go schedule by schedule, or just kind of go through and give an overview and then schedule? Sure. Yep. So Schedule A, we had the mechanic diagnostic equipment, which is being deferred till 2024. The thermal drone as well, we have notes here for staff to get training on before looking into obtaining a larger drone. For communications, the fire chief will have completed this by the end of the year. Financial asset management software, staff are currently looking into softwares and which one will best suit our needs before we proceed with that. Floor scrubber, it's going to be revisited in 2024 for the needs of the new Mattaway facility. So it's deferred until then. Fitness center equipment, they're holding the equipment at the time. It's already been procured until the new facility is complete and it can be moved in. And lastly, the gymnastics equipment, it has been purchased. Didn't use the whole budget, and they'll be utilizing gymnastics equipment where programmers bringing their own in-house. So that's part of that partnership agreement. We'll go over to Schedule B. Sorry, I'm just clicking through them here. The trackless attachments, we did receive them a couple weeks ago, just waiting on some of the final attachments to arrive at the time of this report. I did see a social media post about the trackless on there, so it's exciting. The pickup truck for recreation, we're going to do a review of the fleet to see what's necessary for 2024 to determine if the type of vehicle needed, and if there's one needed, or if there's going to be some sharing or anything else. And the ball diamond groomer is also being deferred to 2024. All of the other items on there, which I do believe 1, 2, 3 have all been complete as well in 2024. So let's go back here. So on Schedule C, we've completed five, and 3 projects are substantially complete, with 5 other projects being carried forward to 2024. These are our facilities projects. So the town hall renovation is aimed to be completed in 2023. I know they're getting close, a lot of the buildings in its finishing stages, so that's exciting. Mattaway, the completion date on here is 2024. I know Mattaway as well is getting close, so that's exciting to see. The project status is 85% at the time of this report. The transformer at Mattaway is complete. It was complete in 2023. Fire Hall Training Center is being deferred to 2024. Same with the parging and brick pointing. The roof was complete in 23. The ventilation system is also being worked on. It says it's at 75% completion. Library had 2 projects that were complete in 2023 as well. Same with the McDougall Mill Museum. The windows and doors there are getting renovated and fitted, so that's good. It'll be complete in 23. The water treatment plant manganese treatment system is to be completed in 2024. But it is at 50% completion to date, and the standpipe mixing system is to be complete by 24/2025, but it is underway at 10%. And then we do have a couple other things that are looking at being done in-house and getting some quotes at Mattaway with a potential parking lot and trails shelter. And there's hopes that the Millennium Trail lights, not the Millennium Trail, sorry, the Swing and Bridge lights would also be hopefully worked on by the end of this year, but if not, will be completed in 2024, sorry. The town hall digital signage has also been deferred until 2024. Sorry, just moving back to the report. So on Schedule D, out of the 15 roads projects that were undertaken in 2023, 9 are substantially complete, with 5 underway and 1 project possibly completed by year end. We can go through those. A lot of these projects were design only though. So Monroe and Harry, Dominion and Lynn, 8th Street, O'Brien Road, Mask to Wrangler, Hall Avenue Extension, and the Witten Road / O'Brien Road. They're design only projects so that we have the shelf ready projects for the actual construction and rehabilitation in future years. It'll be determined during the 2024 budget deliberations how to proceed with these. O'Brien Road, Gillen to Mask, and Joffrey, Hague, Dufferin, Gillen Road, Maloney Road, Culvert, and McNabb Crescent Sidewalk are substantially complete projects with some sodding and minor deficiencies left to complete. As everyone's aware, the Argyle, Lockheil, Opiongo, and Hall is underway and is due to be fully complete in 2024. As I had stated earlier, the new parking lot, oh sorry, no, this is different. The new parking lot at Mattaway is underway and will be completed in 2024. And then, as I also identified, the swinging bridge lighting project is being procured and is hoped to be completed by the end of the year, so that'll be nice to have that up and underway. And then the last schedule is the study schedule. So in 2023, we completed, or to date have almost all of them fully complete, if we open that schedule up. The majority of them are substantially complete. There are a few that are to be completed in 2024, such as the Arts and Heritage Master Plan, the Fire Master Plan to be completed in early '24. Some other ones to highlight: the Mattaway and Rec Master Plan, the Forgy O'Brien Mill Museum Waterfront Concept Plan. So just a few of them to be deferred, not deferred, but completed next year. And the hotel feasibility studies done in '23, secondary plan assessment and appraisals will be done in 2023. So lots going on in our studies as well. And then I don't think there's anything else as far as the schedules, if committee has any questions. Or, yeah.
Mr. CEO, please.
Just a note in terms of some projects take a little longer. So for instance, the master plans are documents that should kind of stand the test of time and should be reviewed every 5 to 10 years. So some of those are carrying over into 2024. Others, either due to staffing changes in certain departments, were delayed. But for instance, I'll just use the financial software. We waited till we got the financial services review to get some good insight on what to procure. And staff are doing their due diligence to not just get something that's not going to work. So while we secured those funds with council in 2023, we're carrying those over. It's just so that we get it right. And I should just point out on some large projects, updates were provided to committee. So for instance, on the town hall project, we encountered mold, asbestos, lack of fire separation, furniture that we tried to move that collapsed. So there's some overages that would have been reported to committee previously, and same for Mattaway, where we provide some updates. But just wanted to provide that where we've done our best. I think if I look back at previous budgets, the amount of carryover is less. And where possible, I think with a full staff team and a full team on the capital side to help get these projects done, we're hopeful that there'll be less carryover going forward. What does help is when the budget is approved earlier in the year. So this year we're going to approve it in February. We're hopeful that it will be a 2-budget year. If we approve the budget in December, we can go to RFP and tender earlier, which means the work can happen in a timely fashion. But just want to be transparent with council and committee about where we're at with these projects.
Okay, and very quickly, a question on the last schedule. When I look at Opiongo and area secondary plan, and I see that we budgeted 130,000, we've year-to-date costs are 27, and it's to be done in 2023. So are we expecting a lot of bills, or is it a much smaller project than we thought?
No, sorry, that's a mistake. Should show 2024. So what we're doing as part of that is some master servicing studies. So the Opiongo lands to understand if pipe services can actually go there. And then there's some biology work. So sorry, that's a typo, should read 2024. And then same with the official plan review. So those are kind of happening at the same time. And then the master servicing study is we're funding it through the Opiongo area secondary plan. So that's to understand how we can do that, and then the industrial parklands as well, where I know Eric's looking at concepts and hopefully bring that to council in short order.
Okay, thank you. And then the Henry Eady building. At one point, there was some discussion about the wood facade either needing replacement or covering, as it looks like the wood might be distressed or rotting in spots. So is there, and I don't see anything in the facilities for a line on that. Is that something that can be included down the road? I don't think it's in any danger of failure this year, but I think in short order there'll be some struggles.
Yeah. So what we're hoping for, Mr. Chair and committee, through you, is some of the building condition assessments are 10 years old. They were done in 2013. So we're hopeful to get through the 2024 budget and then bring council throughout the year and ahead of 2025 a 10-year kind of plan. So recently you would have seen the Public Works Garage, where it was a 2013 study, and through Director Aslan and Director Collins brought forward the report and an update to what had happened in 10 years, and the building needs significant work. That will be the basis of the items that we bring forward, and whether it's an operating life cycle maintenance stuff that we would budget through operating, or is it cladding or something that will extend the useful life of the asset, that should be in the 10-year plan. I should just note on the facilities side, some of the data is old. And for instance, this building, because the old police detachment sat there, we weren't aware until we opened the walls that there was significant mold and significant asbestos and no proper fire separation. So that added to costs. So good data leads to good decision-making and good budgeting. So that would be an item we would look at for the Henry Eady building, but all the buildings. And then once we get into that 10-year planning process, if some of the condition assessments are old and needs good updated information, we'll try to get that done so that council's making good decisions based on good information.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew Dick, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Since we're adding lines, the lights at McConnell Park, I heard, are down again.
Oh, God. Are they?
Yeah, that was about 6 weeks ago that they reached out to me, but we were going through a lot of stuff in town, and I just told the residents, I was like, bear with me. So I just thought I'd throw that out there it's my thorn in my side there.
Down meaning not working, or down falling down?
Down not working again. We had them fixed, and then they went out again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's a good example of, we have operating budget money to fix things and make sure they're working, but then there's certain things that can't be fixed and need a little bit more extra money or a full replacement, and the lights at McConnell Park would likely fit in that second category. So I'll make a note to let Director Collins make her aware.
Thank you. And Deputy Treasurer, anything further you want to add?
Not to this report at this time, no, thanks.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? None, it's carried. Thank you very much. And we'll move to item D.2.2, which is property tax on water sewer arrears 2023. That the Corporate Services, Finance and Human Resources Committee recommend Brentford Town Council receive this report as information regarding 2023 arrears. Mover? Councillor Legree, and the report, please. Deputy Treasurer?
Thank you. So council saw this in June. It was the first time we brought this, just to kind of give council an update of what our balances are and what our percentage of collection was after the interim tax bill was received. So this is just an update to that for the final tax billing, kind of before year end. So at the date of the report, sorry, I'll back up. We have 6 water sewer tax billings a year, when we have 2 final tax or property tax billings a year with 2 installments each, so there's 4 payment dates. And on an annual basis, the town of Brantford transfers outstanding water, sewer arrears to property tax balances to assist in the collection of these arrears. If people don't pay up by the deadlines, there are avenues where the town can enact the tax sale process. As outlined in Appendix 1, at October 31st, which is our final tax due date, the town had approximately $2.2 million in outstanding taxes, water and sewer, and penalty. We outlined the distribution on there to show by year. The properties that are shown as outstanding in tax years 2021 and prior, so 2021, 2020, 2019, etc., all meet the threshold for registration in the tax sale process under the Municipal Act. Since this due date, we have commenced on 18 properties, which is a reduction from the 44 that were outlined in the June report. A significant amount of people came in when they got their reminder notices and either entered into payment plans with the town or paid off in full, brought in checks, paid off their taxes. So this is good to get people in good account status and proceed moving forward. So just to outline Appendix 1, we'll go through some of the control totals at the time of the billing and then what we're sitting with as of October 31st, and then I'll also give you a little bit of an update as to where we are today. So at the time of the billing, right after final billing, we had approximately $9,326,000. outstanding. That's just at the print of the bill. As of October 31st, which is our due date, we had 2.2 million sitting in outstanding, but that's inclusive of taxes and water and penalty and interest that's been accruing on these balances. The reduction is an 83% reduction on current, 35% reduction on 2022, and then you'll see the rest of the reductions as we're collecting it based off of the years that were outstanding, for a total of 75% of collection. What's important to note is that we have 1,000 properties that are on this monthly payment, that are on monthly payments though, and we have 4,096 properties in the town, so we have 1 in 4 is taking advantage of our monthly payments for tax anyway, which is quite good. We generate about $350,000 a month in cash when we do these monthly tax payments alone, so that's important. Since this report's been created, the total owing as to date is 1.5 million, so a reduction of approximately 700,000. The reason for this is the November payment was again approximately 350,000, so we collected 350 in taxes just kind of here and there, as well as the actual November installment of the final taxes that was outstanding. So I just thought that was important to bring up to notify committee that it was 2.2 a month ago, but now we're already down to 1.5 across the board, so thank you.
Thank you. Questions, members of the committee? So very quickly, when I look at the tax reduction by percentage on the second page, can you explain that chart to me, please?
Yeah. So the percentage is it's the amount that we had at the outset, so at July 31st when we did the printing, and then the control totals as of October 31st, so that's just what's remaining. So it's just the difference between those divided by the actual total gets you the percentage that we've collected. So the for example, the 688,404 divided by the 8293.
So when I look at I see previous year at 35.49, and 2 years arrears is 12.6, and 3 years is 2.78.
Yeah, so that's of the totals that were sitting, the arrears that were sitting as at the time of the billing, and then if we've collected taxes off of those arrears since those billings. So where, for instance, if I was in bad standing and I owed all the way back to 2020 hypothetically, and I came in and put down X dollars, which would pay up all of my taxes, that's where we would see those balances reduce. Okay. And then that would be part of the reduction that we're seeing at the bottom by percentage. So when people come in and they pay off their balances, it's not only sitting in the current and in penalty, it's sitting distributed amongst all of the different fiscal years.
Okay, that's kind of what I assumed, but I wanted to make sure. All right, thank you very much. And the next question is, people on installments, I believe December is a free month. So Merry Christmas.
Yeah, yes, that is correct. It's the taxes are based off 11-month installment plans, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just on your previous comment,
Thank you.
You'll notice that when people get real behind, so if you look at the 2.78% of the 3+ arrears, it's harder for people to catch up. So the tax sale process is there for a reason, and then there comes a point where there's some properties that people can't make the payments and we have to go through. Having come from other municipalities, 18 for a municipality of our size is pretty good, and kudos to staff to get it down from 44 to 18 and get payment arrangements for folks. So I think and we work through that process and give lots of notice and work through the registration process. So even after registration, people have a year and then can also pay the cancellation price to avoid tax sale. But there comes a point when if people haven't paid taxes for 3 years, there are some tools in the Municipal Act that we must use. But if you look at our current at 83%, it's pretty good. But as the due amount is older, the ability for people to catch up on those is smaller. But that's why we try to work with them and get tax arrear agreements, and so kudos to staff for that work. Thank you.
And if I remember correctly, we have a we have a company that carries out the tax sale so that we're consistent with our application of timelines and forms and stuff like that, filings.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. So you've heard the discussion. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? None, it's carried. Thank you. And the motion is that Corporate Finance and HR Committee recommend Brantford Town Council endorse 2024 summer student positions for inclusion in the draft 2024 budget. Mover, please. Councillor Andrew Duke, please. And report
From me.
Mr. Cielo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I should kudos to the department heads that met and to review the positions. And in previous years, we had different departments applying for different grants, and we've centralized this and had a good corporate conversation about students. Just want to say that it's an important investment in the youth of this community when we invest $228,000 to provide good jobs for students, to build their skills, and also get a lot of important work done. So there's a breakdown below of the hours. I'll just call out the museum staff. I was mentioned that earlier. That's 3,430 hours. Our day camp staff, 2,600 hours. And then our summer maintenance students, 3,840. So a lot of our seasonal kind of work gets done there, and so we thank those youth that do that, and if possible, if they're able to come back, because training and making sure that they're oriented is important. So the range of salaries is $16 to $17.50 per hour. And then the other positions are really just to kind of get ahead on some files. So accessibility and records management, it's the second year that we have a student. We're going to have that student work a little bit on our accessibility compliance. The library has a student, and then we hire a student for to make sure that we staff the household hazardous waste, and then a student for engineering and environmental. Last year that was GIS, so every year we change it up so that we're more successful in grant funds, because the feds in the province are looking for new positions and not always the same ones. So it's a total of 11,850 hours.
Thank you. And can you remind me what we're going to do about the visitor center? Because I don't see them on here.
So with, through you, Mr. Chair, with the town being asked to take over the operations of the museum, and they had 7 to 8 students and we had 2, we're looking at cross-training our summer student staff so that they can work in a similar fashion. The other one is the Visitor Information Center, which we might rebrand the Welcoming Center. We want to look at our approach to visitor information, and is it just at the Visitor Information Center, or is it here at Town Hall? Do we also utilize the museum, and do we utilize the staff at Mattaway, the new MyFM Center? So we're looking at all those, so instead of 2 specific students for visitor information, that we would cross-train students and use them in different ways to achieve the same goal.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, and so seeing that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? None, it's carried. Thank you very much. And we'll move to F, which is committee minutes. That the Corporate Finance and HR Committee confirm the minutes of committee meeting 1-2023 dated November 7, 2023. Mover? Councillor Legree. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None, is carried. Thank you very much. I'll remind council and their viewers that the next regular scheduled meeting of the Corporate Finance and HR Committee is scheduled for January the 2nd, 2024 at 2 p.m. Our next council meeting is next Tuesday evening on the 12th. With that, we'll call for an adjournment at 2:53. Thank you, everybody, for being prepared. Good reports. Thank you.